nice and beautiful. Developmental trauma is the reason we feel broken, that we feel like something's missing, that we feel like something's wrong with us, and that we feel like we're invisible. We're never heard. And I finally stumbled across and started to heal my trauma at the age of 37, and it literally changed my life. And I think in many ways it actually saved my life. So in this video, that's exactly what I want to talk about, but I don't want to talk about it in a way that makes it look like, look at me, I healed my trauma, aren't I wonderful? Because I don't think that's helpful. I want to share with you why it worked for me, why I know it will work for you, and equally where we have been going wrong all our lives, why we haven't healed, why we still feel stuck and trapped. I'll make myself a coffee. When I talk about trauma, let's be clear, I'm talking about developmental trauma. So these are failings, these are environmental failings that happened when we were very young, when we were children. And when we don't get the connection, the attunement, the love, when we're not seen perfectly as we are, we have to adapt. And those adaptive mechanisms stay with us into adulthood. And as adults, that's where we become people pleasers, overthinkers. We give too much of ourselves to others. We get easily overwhelmed. We procrastinate. We feel like we're fundamentally broken and flawed. That's what we're talking about in this video. And that's what I needed to heal. So I think especially for us in the West, we have this false belief when it comes to healing and fixing ourselves and working on ourselves that the mind, the brain, is the single thing that we need to look at. I'm not sure where that came from, but especially for trauma and most other things, it really doesn't work because we are not just a head on a stick. If we only look at the psychological side of things, we're missing out the physiology, we're missing out the psychobiology. We are a nervous system, and when it comes to trauma, that's what we really need to start working with, because actually most of the information doesn't come from the brain and then informs the rest of our body. I think there's more of a 60-70% split of information that comes from lower down, from our gut, from our nervous system to our brains. So to ignore the rest of it really makes no sense when you think about it or when you feel it. And so when I was 36, 37, I'd probably spent the previous 5 or 6 years really looking at my mind. You know, I read a book called The Chimp Paradox, for example, which talks about our monkey minds. I thought if I could change my mindset, then I could finally be happy in relationships, find love. I could have a better job. You know, if I really got up at 5 a.m. and did the grind, then I'd be successful. I'd finally get the Lamborghini that I always dreamed of. But none of it worked. I was still insecure. I was still rubbish in relationships. I was still painfully shy. Meditation and mindfulness helped kind of calm me down and make me feel more at peace. But I still had all the insecurities, the low self-esteem, the low self-worth, the fear of life, the overthinking. It just didn't seem to shift. I landed, fortunately, by almost sheer chance, into the lap of Gaia Polini, who is my teacher at the moment. I've worked with her on and off now for several years in the trauma space. And she opened my eyes. She opened me up to see the truth, to see it's not even the missing piece, it's the huge whacking jigsaw puzzle piece like this. It's not a tiny piece come crashing down, and finally everything made sense to me. Let me just brew this coffee. So what Gaia beautifully initially introduced me to were, as I mentioned at the start of this video, adaptive mechanisms. And in NARM speak, I'm a NARM trained practitioner, there are 5 adaptive mechanisms. And they are connection, attunement, autonomy, trust, and then love and sexuality. And I won't go into what those are, but ultimately, those are the things that make us people pleasers, make us feel like if we're perfect. I suffer with this one terribly. If we do everything, we have to be perfect, basically, to get love. So everything that we do in life, we strive for perfection, which actually leads to procrastination because it becomes too overwhelming. We care for others. We feel like we're outsiders, like we don't belong. We feel like we don't have needs. Our needs don't matter. We don't matter as humans, as people on this beautiful earth. And finally, I realized that I wasn't broken. And you can imagine, I feel it now, that well of emotion. When I finally thought, fuck, I'm not different to everyone else. I'm not broken. I'm not shit. I'm me, and I'm beautifully me. I'm better at being me than anyone else could ever be. And when that penny lands, it's not here. It doesn't happen in your mind. It happens in your body. Your psychobiology, your nervous system finally shifts trapped trauma, trapped emotions that were never allowed, that we suppressed, that we pushed down, we depressed in order to survive. And ultimately, that's what this comes down to. That's what this comes from. As young children, we have one thing that we need to do, and that's survive. And if there are environmental failings, we have to adapt. We have to make sure that we survive. And it's very primitive. It's biological adaptive mechanisms. There's no consciousness behind any of this stuff. We basically turn the spotlight on ourselves. We say, I must be broken. There must be something wrong with me. It can't be my parent. It can't be my primary caregiver. It must be me. And we carry that belief through our entire lives. And just think about that for a second, that innocent, tiny child believing that something is fundamentally wrong with them in order to maintain the attachment to their parents. It's horrible stuff. It's beautifully powerful in some ways, but painful. And this journey is painful. Sometimes I think it would be lovely if I could just change my mindset, if I could just click my fingers and the pain would go away. But that's the one thing I think really isn't talked about enough. We live in a world, a society where everyone wants a quick fix. Everything has to be now, everything has to be instant. And healing takes, I don't know if for most of us we'll ever be truly healed. That imaginary place where everything's perfect and beautiful 24/7, I don't think exists. I think the aim is to get to somewhere where we just feel okay most of the time. Because there isn't anything wrong with okay. I'm quite fascinated at the moment with the okayness. Just being okay. How are you today? Yeah, I'm okay, actually. In the middle. There's nothing wrong with being in the middle. All the highs are manic and all the lows are depressing. The middle is the beautiful place. That's the calm, that's the quiet. That's this here now. This is okayness. So after understanding the adaptive mechanisms and the way that we change and twist and adapt to survive, I started to really understand that what most of us do are suppress those emotions that were never allowed to be expressed. We push them down, depress. That's where depression comes from. We're pushing down who we truly are. And when we do that for too long, for years, for decades, things start going wrong, things start breaking. So instead of trying to change what we're thinking, change the way our brains work, we actually need to start attuning to ourselves and what's going on and what we need. Back to the example of me in this woods, it might seem like a small act of kindness, but in the moment when I'm struggling, I have to check, what is it that I need right now? I need to be alone. I need to be in nature. I need to drink coffee. I need to go for a long hike. I need to listen to emotional music that's going to make me cry. And that's exactly what I need. And by allowing that and by following it and by doing it, my nervous system is in a much better place. I'm in the calm and disengaged, as my teacher Gaia calls it. And when I'm calm and disengaged, I'm really happy. Life just flows. It's such a beautiful place to be. And then we realize we're like an onion. We have layers. I still have sessions with Gaia now. And things will shift. But it's not that I'll be struggling with something and then we'll work through it and then it will never come up for me again. It will just be that my reaction to it, when I'm triggered next time, it's not as big. It doesn't take over. It doesn't cripple me. I notice it and I think, yeah, that's a bit crap. And I can tune into myself and check, do I feel okay with it? And make a decision from this place, from a more grounded, compassionate place. And when we start to heal trauma, we develop a sense of safety in ourselves. We can really listen to what it is that we want in the moment. We start to develop healthy boundaries. We can say no more. Most of us, when we suffer with trauma, are yes people. We're people pleasers. We don't have healthy boundaries. We never learnt to be able to say no and that be okay. We feel like if we say no to somebody, then they'll hate us. They will reject us. They'll push us away. They'll judge us. But when we start healing our trauma, when we realize that saying no doesn't mean abandoning ourselves, in fact saying yes, abandoning others, in fact saying, get myself in a mess. We realize that when we say yes to people, being people pleasers, we abandon ourselves because we abandon our authenticity and what we really want. But when we say no to people, we can't take on that extra piece of work, I can't meet you this weekend, then actually we're being authentic. We're checking in what we're capable of. And then there's less risk of burnout. There's less risk of stress. There's less risk of overwhelm. Because we all have our own North Star. We can all live to the beat of our own drum. We can't be guided by our own internal navigation system if we are just stuck in our heads. We need to breathe and we need to land in ourselves, in our body, and on this earth. And once we do that, that's when the huge shifts come. That's when the transformations come. And it doesn't happen overnight. I wish I could tell you that it does. I wish I could sit here, sell you a course for $97 and say, do this course and I'll transform your life. It's difficult because I'm going to be selling courses. But there'll be no promises like that. But that doesn't exist. It's just baby steps, little changes at a time, tiny, small transformations. And don't discount the small shifts. They are huge. They really are huge. I've learned that. It doesn't have to be all tears and euphoria. Sometimes just in our bodies, we feel just a little bit of that okayness again somewhere in our bodies, and that's just enough. And if it has worked out beautifully, and if you're still watching this video and you're interested in the trauma work that I do, then I invite you to watch this video next while I finish off my coffee. Have a beautiful day. Go gentle. Big love, John. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful?